What's going on, guys? Phil here. Wanted to go over something that's very currently developing, so um, all of my information might not be accurate. Like, if you see this video a little bit later, but about 8 hours ago, this was posted. ZDNet FTX buys Good Luck Games to convince gamers to love NFTs, and as I don't do YouTube content that often, but it always revolves around something with strategy games. And my most recent video, I believe, was actually on Storybook Brawl. Good Luck Games, if you are unaware, is the developer of Storybook Brawl. So it's a game that I've been really enjoying the past 3-4 months. And I've hit their top rank. I've competed in their monthly tournaments, stuff like that. So it's been a pretty fun, engaging new game, and this kind of came out of nowhere, and I just kind of wanted to talk about the fact that it happened and what that could possibly mean, right? So if you don't know, everyone on the internet has probably heard of NFTs already, so I'm not going to go that in depth on it, especially because I honestly don't really understand them, and all the complexity that goes into minting them or what that even entails, anything like that. I'm not a crypto bro. I don't understand any of it really. But so I've pulled some quotes that I think are good. Like, this is what I think of NFTs based on these quotes, and why these quotes might be scary. These are quotes that came from different articles, all referencing, how pay to earn, which is what integrating NFTs into video games is called. It's called the pay to earn method. And it really, I don't mean for this whole entire video to be bashing crypto, because again, I come from a place of ignorance, but I don't understand it at all. One of the major things that popped out in one of these articles is the idea that NFTs are supposed to let users have more control over their in-game assets, such as skins, characters, weapons, virtual lands, or more. This starts off fine, right? Because I don't particularly care if your game implements NFTs. I'm not going to touch them, but if it doesn't actively harm the game, then I don't see too much of an issue with it, right? Like, in general, I'm against NFTs, so if your game has NFT implementation, I am disincentivized to play it, because I don't agree with NFTs as a product. I guess that's the word you can use for it. I don't believe in them as an idea. But if your game is good enough, you can overlook things, especially if they're avoidable. So if all of your NFTs in your game are based on cosmetics and skins and stuff, I don't have to worry about it. That doesn't impact me. But it's when you start to say that you can have control over things such as certain characters or certain weapons, that's a very slippery slope into having extremely pay-to-win systems that also force you to use this third-party system of crypto, NFT, cryptocurrency kind of stuff. Seems very sketchy, very open to abuse, right? One of the major points that people push for with NFT implementation into video games is that currently true ownership of items does not lie with you. So if I go into any video game, let's choose Hearthstone, and I buy the Battlegrounds cosmetic pack for $20, my account has those items, but I don't have those items personally, right? The game developers, the server has those items. So the idea is that if it's on the blockchain, I personally now have access to my items. And this might be me coming from a place of ignorance again, but I don't get the distinction. If the game that I purchased items for dies, if the servers get shut down, right? If tomorrow Hearthstone doesn't exist, and I have all this stuff on the blockchain related to Hearthstone, it doesn't matter that I own it, right? Unless in the very rare case where a certain item is just a pop culture piece or something, so it goes up in value as oh, no one plays this game, the servers are dead, it's like a relic, someone just wants to own it, kind of like old art or antiques, stuff like that. But in function, it doesn't matter that I own it if the servers are down and they have no use, right? Whether I own them, whether I own my like skeletons of old game pieces, or the game developer technically owns them even though they don't have any purpose anymore, it doesn't make sense to me in the slightest. I conceptually cannot wrap my head around the fact that someone cares about owning their cosmetics. I it it just doesn't resonate with me at all. Some of the talks that I've had with people who are more into it have explained to me that it's kind of rooted in like it seems to be very popular with people who played MMOs essentially. The fact that like, hey, I have this exclusive item, no one else can have this exclusive item, and now they're being able to try and tie that system into other genres and other games with NFTs. It it makes like a forced scarcity kind of like marketplace, which it it seems incredibly open to abuse. And that's not even getting into the fact that this is just talking as if they're only skins, right? Some games are saying that they want to like make you be able to purchase individual like gameplay pieces, and that your gameplay pieces will be specific to you. So if I have a card in Hearthstone like Boulder Fist Ogre 6 mana 6/7, if I buy the $58 NFT version of Boulder Fist Ogre, then maybe it's a 6 mana 7/7, and then you can go buy an NFT version of Boulder Fist Ogre, but it's like Boulder Fist Ogre 2, and now it's like an 8/7 or something like that. Like, that's a very streamlined, very obvious, like, bad implementation of how this could work, but it's a good example of the basic premise of why this could be bad, right? Um, so there's some issues I see with NFT games, and there are games currently that run off of these systems, right? I was doing a little bit of research, and just this link was good enough to just have at least some a good list of games to where I could go and look up certain facts about each one. And there's play to earn games that make a lot of money. Axie Infinity is a very popular game, even though it as far as I know, one of the cryptos that it uses crashed like really hard a couple months ago. So that doesn't bode well for them. But Axie Infinity is very popular. Gods Unchained was one of the very first NFT games. It that game has been in development for as long as I can remember, and as long as I can remember, it's wanted to do this NFT focus. So people are trying to make it work, but I just don't see the benefit. I don't see why, if you're gonna make a game and your game is good enough for people to play, why you need to kind of hide it behind the fact that it's also a crypto investment. It just seems very out of place for me. So issues with NFT games that I currently have, right? I don't believe in NFTs, so that's an immediate red flag. Most NFT games, there's probably ones I haven't seen, but I've gone through this collective list on this website, gone through all their websites and done some basic research. I've seen some others that weren't listed on this site as well. And outside of a few, a majority of NFT games just feel very unpolished or unfinished. One that really stood out to me was Splinter Lands. It's just it it looks like someone went into Unreal or into Unity and spent like maybe 4 days putting together boxes with different art. Like it seems extremely unfinished. Like it's just a template that someone need. Like, hey, I have an idea for how to make this crypto scheme work. It requires a game, so I'm gonna make like this really shitty game and put it over top of it. And another issue that kind of coincides with that is a lot of NFT games are currently spin-offs of just better games that don't have NFT integration or crypto integration. So if there's ever a game that actually comes out and is an original idea and like functions well as a game, and then happens to have NFTs along with it, that would be miles better than what we have now. Which even if I'm completely wrong and NFT games are the way of the future, none of the NFT games currently are even good games. So that's kind of a pretty big, massive red flag to not want to get into NFT games. Um, and then since crypto and NFT integration is not currently widely accepted within video games, it's hard to even talk about the topic, right? Because you don't know how a real, quote, real game is going to implement them. Because with anything, there's going to be good and bad ways, right? We've spent this whole last 10 minutes talking about how cosmetics are probably not that big an issue. It's about, unique gameplay features, and if you're going to be selling those, then it's a very pay to win abusable system. Um, so it without having any good there's no AAA game that has NFT integration for us to base our opinions on yet. There is no standard for how they're going to function, so it's very difficult to even talk about them in the first place. But it's important to speculate what could happen, both in the good and in the bad. And even in the best cases where it's just all stuff for skins, it seems unnecessary to say the least. That's my general opinion. Something that is very interesting, though, while doing a little bit of research for this, is it seems like NFTs and their integration are very popular among strategy games, card games, auto battlers, those kinds of genres. And I thought that that's an interesting point to bring up. One of the things that I've thought about as to why this may be a trend is card games and strategy games typically have a larger barrier to entry than most games do anyways. To start playing Magic, you've got to buy a Magic deck. That's a good $30-$40 investment. Plus, you're always going to be looking for new cards. You're going to want to buy booster packs, stuff like that. With Hearthstone, going into it, if you're going to try to stay competitive, stay up to date, you're going to have to shell out like $100 3 times a year for all the expansion cards, right? So it's strategy game enthusiasts are more prepared already to kind of invest into a game that they aren't certain about, just so they can get the full experience to see whether or not it's worthwhile. And so that makes the extra hoops you have to jump through with. If you found Axie Infinity and you've never used crypto, there's a lot of steps that involve setting up crypto for the first time, figuring out how all the transfers work, figuring out that there's actually a bunch of transfer fees in the process, so however much money you put in, you actually aren't getting that much money out because the services take out fees to transfer between them. So there's a lot of hoops that most consumers are not going to go through, but for some reason strategy game people don't have as much of an issue with it. I also think that coinciding into why strategy games are kind of focused on tech, like crypto stuff is pretty technologically advanced, right? And your general consumer is not going to understand it, but your general strategy game consumer is going to lean into being a more nerdy stereotype person, someone who's more engaged in tech, more engaged in current affairs with what's going on with technology, trying to find edges. Card games are always about being one step ahead of people. So if the next step is crypto, you know what? All these people are the early adopters, and it kind of preys on people who think that they're smarter than everybody else, which a lot of strategy game players, the entire point of a strategy game is to use your mind, use your intelligence to find the best answer for a situation. And so it just lends itself so well to those kinds of people who think that this might be the next innovation, this is where I'm gonna make it big or whatever. So I just thought that correlation is kind of interesting to bring up. Now, why does this all matter, right? Why do I actually care about the fact that FTX bought Good Luck Games? And really, since we don't have too much information on how exactly things are going to be implemented into Storybook Brawl, right now it's not that big of an issue. It's a little bit scary, it's a little worrisome because you never know what's going to happen, and this has been a very, very good game. I think this has been the most enjoyable auto battler that I've played, and I've put hundreds of hours into Battlegrounds. I put hundreds of hours into the original Dota auto chess. So I'm very experienced in this field, and this game was very well done, for the most part. You're always gonna have things you can complain about, but it's still in early access and everything. So, blah blah blah. Balance changes always are happening. So like, it just is very worrisome that such a good game that everyone in the community that supported them like it's a very small team, or at least it originally was a very small team. It's an indie game through and through, and so seeing them be bought up, it's bittersweet because like I'm happy for the team. I hope that everything goes well, but this is this is opening up some doors that I was really hoping you would never open. So hopefully they don't end up, kind of destroying their game with bad implementation. Um, should you stop playing Storybook Brawl if you disagree with NFTs and their implementation in games? So I've given you a little bit of a idea of what NFTs can kind of do to a game, and honestly, the community in the community Discord is popping off right now. There is a constant debate in the general chat between crypto bros and non-crypto bros, and people trying to make sense whether this is actually a big deal or not. It's day one. No plans have been announced. The official Storybook team did their own news article, writing up, we got acquired, and we want to talk a little bit about what the blockchain is going to do. We're currently working on prototyping a bunch of approaches, blah, blah, blah. We don't know what we're doing yet. And then they posted this video that is supposed to be them talking about, being acquired and NFTs and all that, all the stuff we've been talking about, but instead, like, 3/4 of it is just about, like, the story of early development and how things are getting, they're changing to try to become less of an indie game. No shit, you just got acquired by, like, a multi-billion-dollar company. I want to know the answer to the question of, if the entire point of you being acquired was to try out this crypto thing, what the fuck are the details on the crypto thing, right? So this whole article is just bullshit. It's not useful, but hopefully they don't end up fucking up the implementation too bad and ruining what is a very fun and very good game. What's going on, guys? Editor Phil here. Wanted to add a little thing to the end of this because in my original recording the point did not come across very well, but there's a quote in this article from the FDNet, right? Or ZDNet, from ZDNet. And it says, across my interviews, I heard mention of unique tokens that will enhance gameplay and the possibility of being, quote, the only one on the planet that owns this version of this card. And in a world where we're buying individual NFTs for each card that are in any way gameplay differ from each other, the game just ceases to function, right? If both players are not playing, it's not beginning on the same field, like open ground, then there's just no way to ever balance your game. And that's the real question mark on how NFTs, as they relate to gameplay, can be implemented, right? Because everything makes sense in a bubble if we're just talking about cosmetics. Would I still be against NFTs even if they were purely cosmetic? Yes, but they're not that big of a deal. I've spent a lot of time trying to think out different ways in which NFTs could be used where they do somehow affect gameplay, and all of them just result in there being no uniform balance, right? Like, I can't wrap my head around a way where you can sell cards that are individually different from each other. And maybe I'm reading too much into the word enhance gameplay, but that sounds to me like it's going to be something that impacts how the game functions at a core level rather than simply cosmetics. So I just wanted to put that as kind of the last note. If anyone has any ideas how, gameplay changing or gameplay affecting NFTs can be implemented, that would be an amazing thing to put in the comments, because I would love to have some sort of conversation or just even kind of a starting point to look into this, because through my research, there's not been that much useful information on even how these systems might be able to function. So yeah, again, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.